as Duo on TikTok. That video of an owl twerking on a conference room table and giving birth to sponges, of course not at the same time, that would be ridiculous, was my chaotic brain. Now, we've seen the numbers and the headlines. Over 4.3 million followers, over 100 million views, all within 6 months. And that's cool and all, but numbers have never really been of interest to me anyways. I think they only really tell a part of the story. And the story I'm about to tell you today is the real story of our TikTok success and how we became one of the leading brands on the platform. Now, before you regret coming to my talk, I know many of you are interested in the million-dollar question. How do we go viral too? Give us the numbers, give us the strategy, the brand impact. And I will get to that marketing jargon, but if there's one thing that you can take away from my talk today, I hope it's this. There is a method to the madness. Nothing is ever overnight, random, chance success. It's calculated risk. And sometimes, in the middle of the ride, you find yourself thinking, the risk I took was calculated, but man, am I bad at math. So as someone who likes to be in control of most situations, I thought it would be helpful to go over what I'll be covering today. First, we'll talk about intersectionality and how it was the golden ticket to our success. Then I'll talk about calculated risk, how we implemented it, and how it really helped us become one of the leading apps on the platform. And lastly, the road to virality, our ups and downs and the ebbs and flows. Intersectionality is the golden ticket. For those of you who don't know what intersectionality is, it's simply defined as the systems of discrimination, whether that's based on age, race, ethnicity, sexuality, and the list really goes on. Well, how they intersect to create unique dynamics and effects in the world. So for me, intersectionality in my life is being a woman, it's being a person of color, and it's being a Muslim in America. Duolingo's TikTok success was built on a foundation of intersectionality that catapulted our vision to take risks. Risks that were bold enough to make an impact, but for the most part, on the right side of the line. I'm here today to convince you that when you build a foundation of intersectionality, success is inevitable. Simply put, if you want to speak to a certain demographic, have someone from that demographic creating content for you, and it doesn't hurt to pay them well to do it. But let me backtrack a bit and tell you a story. Once upon a time, in 1998, an angel was born to 2 Pakistani immigrants in a small city in America. As the hopes of her becoming the 3rd redemption child and one day going to med school, that clearly did not happen. Needless to say, my life growing up was very interesting. As a Pakistani Muslim kid, I attended Catholic school for a majority of my life. I often felt like a square peg trying to fit into a hole. Funny enough, in 6th grade, I actually got suspended for creating a YouTube video about why students should not be attending my school. At that point, I probably should have anticipated that a career in social media was in my future. What a lovely family photo, right? Wrong. As you can see, in a family full of doctors and engineers and finance people and all that fun stuff, I decided to be an owl on TikTok. Now, the funny thing about being a first-gen immigrant is that you often have your own desires and passions. I mean, it's why your parents immigrated, so you could have those dreams. But it's also managing your parents' expectations. And the real trauma is growing up with immigrant parents and figuring out how to make them happy, but also make yourself happy. Now, the special thing about first-gen immigrant kids, regardless of our ethnicity, is the superpower we have is shape-shifting. Because we often have to adapt to our surroundings, figure out how to get people to like us, and choose which side of us we want to show, we quickly become keen to figuring out how people think, act, behave, and most importantly, perceive the world around us. So while managing those identities, trying to fit in, all while going through puberty, you become really good at figuring out people. And I'd argue the hard skills of social media can be taught, whether that's analytics, copywriting, all of that fun stuff. But the gut intuition that comes from an intersectional background of understanding different people and audiences, That is undeniable. Those are the superstars. And here's the kicker. I'm not special. As much as I'd like to think I'm the most important person in this room, I'm not. I was given opportunity because of the access I had. I was put in a position where the skill set I had was not only sought out, but it was empowered. My role manager took a risk on me when she was hiring me. The job description originally asked for 2 to 3 years of experience, and I was fresh out of college. I had no experience, but I had wisdom far beyond my years. Now, there are hundreds of other shapeshifters in the world that our industry, unfortunately, does not give access to. Again, it's all about access. I was even born to a family of US citizens. That in itself gives me privilege and access beyond a lot of people in this world. So I encourage you to think about how intersectionality really is the golden ticket, and to empower young, diverse talent to have not only a platform with your brand, but really speak to it. Give them the reins. Let them see where they can go. Because the reality is, growing up with an intersectional background, you get really good at adapting to different audiences. So they're the shapeshifters, and they're the ones that are probably going to change our industry. All right, let's take a breather. Can you raise your hand if at any point your boss has said absolutely no to an idea that you knew would work? No one. Okay, a couple people. Wonderful. So I'm guessing if you're not raising your hand, you're probably the boss that says no. That being said, I hope this next part of the talk encourages you to take risk no matter what side you're on. Now, the funny thing about working in social media is that everybody thinks they can do your job better than you. Just because Betty can post a Throwback Thursday photo of her dog, all of a sudden that becomes just make it go viral. And although I wish I had a secret special sauce that made everything go viral, I don't. And the reality is, to make something go viral, you often have to break through the noise, and that involves risk. And we all know that. The cornerstone of good marketing, or anything really with impact, is risk. But then that begs the question, how do we take risk, and if I'm being very honest with you, not get canceled? And as someone who has been on both sides of that spectrum, I'm here today to tell you about a concept we called calculated risk. At Duolingo, we define calculated risk as a consciously bold decision that marries intention and impact. It marries both of them. It's never exclusive. It's always intention with impact. Now, I'm going to walk you through what really goes in my brain when I'm thinking about calculated risk before we post videos out on our platform. So here's my step-to-step guide. Number 1, you must anchor your brand in a human truth. At Duolingo, our human truth is language learning is hard, so we make it fun. So when we're posting, we often ask ourselves, are we having fun? Is this content fun? Is it something that we would actually want to engage with? And the answer is, if it's usually not, we don't do it. We're done with it. It doesn't go out in the world. Next, the trusty cost-benefit analysis. There's always something to gain and lose. So what are you gaining? What are you losing by posting this? And now, another funny thing about working in social media is that you have to handle a lot of expectations, internally and externally. So for me, when it comes to content that I know that'll work, but might piss off a couple people internally, at that point I know it's time to ask for forgiveness instead of permission. And I'm standing on this stage, and I turned out just fine. Lastly, you should be ready to engage with your community. If you're posting something risky, you should have your ears on the ground, listening to what they're saying about you. A general rule of thumb I have is staying on for 15 minutes after every single video and creating banter and brand love. Again, this can all be gut intuition and can eventually be learned. But coming from an intersectional background, this was risk I took in my life, in my day-to-day things that I did. I had my own North Star. I knew when I wanted to be one type of person versus another type of person. I was talking to people. Again, it comes with having an intersectional background that's just foundational to who we are. Now, this is probably the more fun part that a lot of people are curious about. So I want to talk to you about our road to virality and the lessons I've learned along the way. And I'm still only a year into my career, so I'm obviously still learning, but these are things that I found to be impactful. Now, another funny thing about social media is that a lot of people think it's just kind of random, arbitrary, and a lot of people have pegged Duolingo's success to kind of just be throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. And again, while that would be great, that's absolutely not true. We've based our brand in that human truth. Again, language learning is hard, so we make it fun. that exists in our lesson content, that's there on Instagram and Twitter. It all existed, actually, even before I even started my career here. So my job was just bringing it to TikTok. So I'm going to show you some ebbs and flows and things I've learned. Number one, chase ideas and then trends. A lot of people may see our content and think, don't you just post trends? What do you mean by this? What I mean is when you have set ideas and good storylines that you have from far before a new trend comes up, it's way easier to adapt to a trend. So for us, if you're familiar with our content, you know Duo loves Dua Lipa. And that has been a common thing even before our TikTok, and we were just trying to figure out how to bring that to life. And often, there are trends that match that idea. It expedites the approval process, we're able to be more proactive, it just gets things done. And for those who are curious about what actually defines a trend, these are things that I do to be a trend spotter, I guess. If an audio has more than 30,000 views, I have a gut feeling that something's probably given here. Next, if it keeps popping up on your For You page, act like a consumer. If it's making you laugh, it's probably funny. Bookmark that. And lastly, one of my favorite quotes is, be sure to steal like an artist. Now, TikTok has been awesome for making the ordinary people famous. You're able to see their rendition of some original audio, and then you can adapt to it yourself. Now, when I was first starting my account, I had no idea where to look or where to do. And my favorite brand accounts was Ireland's own Ryan Air. And often, I would see what audios they were using, I would bookmark them, and then try to think of my original POV. Now, if you're interested in starting a TikTok or you're curious about anything in social and want your brand to be better on social, I highly recommend stealing like an artist. And you can steal from us if you'd like. Now, the comments section is your social brief. A lot of the times, people will say, oh my God, it would be so cool if you just did XYZ. So just do XYZ. And now I know there are some really crazy people on the internet probably asking you to do some pretty weird stuff. Don't do that, obviously, but there are things that we can easily adapt to and pick up on. And when you give the people what they want, they respond well. They want to see their content out in the world. So do it. Have fun with it. Now, what's funny, and a lot of people don't know, is that Duo's TikTok comments were the new push notification. And our TikTok strategy actually started off of a commenting strategy before we made it to our content strategy, because like most social media teams, we were pretty understaffed, and we didn't have the resources to put out this whole content calendar and create awesome videos. So we found it to be really effective to go to different viral videos and just comment about the video, meet the people where they were at. I remember back in September of 2021, TikTok announced that they hit 1 billion monthly active users. That is a lot of people. And the first thought that went through my head is that if there's 1 billion people on TikTok, then there is not 1 billion people on our app. So how do we get people to watch TikTok and go to our app? And the notification strategy was born. We just talked about what was in the video. We never explicitly said, do your lesson or anything really about our brand. And Gen Z loved it. People were responding to us, engaging with us, and we actually saw a really big uptick in users anytime we had an active or a super viral push notification type message. In fact, we even saw new resurrected users coming back to our app. Now, there is this really unfortunate discourse around TikTok that it's only for Gen Z. That's just the Gen Z area, millennials are out, the geriatric millennial. We've all seen the headlines. And for me, I believe that's doing the platform a very big disservice. In fact, one of my best partners in crime on Duolingo's TikTok is our general counsel, who we like to call Legal Steve. Steve is in his upper 40s and has more ideas for our TikTok than any of our Gen Z employees at Duolingo. He knows what's happening, he knows what's up, and he's excited about the platform. And that's the thing. There's even nursing home residents on the platform that have more followers than Duolingo does. That's to say that this platform is for everyone, and it's a lot like learning a language. You go at it day by day, video by video, scroll through, be consistent with it, and you'll probably start to pick up on the trends and the fun things happening. So I don't want this to be siloed just to a thing that only Gen Z can do. A lot of people can do it, and they can do it well. Now, I want to end on this. Last April, I was accepting an award for Social Content Marketer of the Year my first year out of college, the youngest in the room, because I made an owl to work on a conference room table. Now, I would not imagine I'd be saying this phrase here to you in Dublin today, nor did I imagine that award to be happening. I had a $0 budget, a very crusty owl suit, an iPhone, and just one brilliant idea. So I hope today that this encourages you to trust intersectional talent. Trust the shapeshifters, give them a chance and a voice with your brand. And even if you don't have a budget, literally $0 was spent on ours, and I'm standing here talking to you today. So trust the shapeshifters, be okay with Gen Z taking the reins, and at the end of the day, you got this. Thank you.